Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. A colleague recently shared that her gains in the last year were due to her ability to release the outcome of all her projects and to relax into the experience of each one. And at the start of the new year, she found that her stress level had ramped up and she was feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. Just weeks after the holiday celebrations, she had already transformed. She then commented that she had to return to her state of being in flow with her days and her overall desires at the forefront. So I'm thinking about her conversation with me as I was thinking about this lovely conversation I get to have with Sarah Arnett. Hello, Sarah.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. Today we are sharing a passion that we both have, which is in movement. Both of us have come from a dance background, and we're going to be sharing a little bit about the passion we have for living life fully and with joy. And Sarah is going to be sharing a lot about the opportunity to use storytelling and physical movement in order to release stress and any other angst we have in our lives. But I want to tell you a little bit about Sarah first so you can get a feel for the incredible background that she has. Sarah is principal for Ampersand Box Coaching and Consulting. She focuses on leadership development. Business coaching and change management are also a part of that. And she's introduced thousands to the power of choice, of using the yes, the and playing in the sandbox, play for life and work. She's a coach. She facilitates leaders doing mirror work, looking at the self, and window work, looking at the team, the organization, how they're working together. And she helps them leverage their skills, abilities, passions to maximize results and to create efficient teams and organizations. Sarah's coaching clients have experienced success in the following areas: career advancement, performance improvement, leadership presence, community skills, and team effectiveness. Sarah is the overall package. She's on call at the faculty for the Center for Creative Leadership, which facilitates leadership programs that go across the U.S., and she's board certified as a coach and certified change management professional. All this from a dance background. I always love that, where our skills in dance take us. And when parents are putting their children through their programs and wondering what will happen, you never know what those skills are going to develop. But I love what dance brings to the forefront. So, Sarah, thank you for being here today.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I need to start this conversation with a cup of tea. So what cup of tea do you have with you today?
I have organic eggnog chai.
Ooh.
Very. And I bought a lot of it because I found it last Christmas. I love eggnog. I'm like one of few people that like egg. I love eggnog and fruitcake. Not many people like those. Anyway, I tasted this. I got a little sampler and I liked it. So I went back and got some more.
Oh, I love that. There's an eggnog recipe for those people listening on my website for capebrettontea.ca, which is the full eggnog with the whipped cream and the whole 9 yards, but it's infused with tea. And so there's some different blends that we recommend that give you a really nice flavor. But I love the idea of the eggnog chai. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And you want to know what's in it?
Yes.
So it has it on the back. Cinnamon. Is it cacao nibs or cacao nibs? Mace, cloves, nutmeg, vanilla, and natural organic eggnog flavor. Whatever that is, the mystery ingredient.
Oh, that's beautiful. And now that you've said all those herbs, that's also powerful for us because those herbs come on a conversation with us today. And all of those are really nurturing opportunities for us, those kinds of herbs put together. And we know that because in the wintertime, it's nice to sip on those, and inside where it's cozy, where outside it might be in a nice blizzard. The snow's coming around, but we have this opportunity to be cozy and comfortable and reflective. And that's what those ingredients provide, which is so great.
Yeah.
And what mug did you choose?
This is my mug in the house. So I have had this for 40 years. I think some friends of mine gave this to me when I lived in Savannah, Georgia. It's got motivational statements all, just running together with this rainbow of colors. And I've kept it for 40 years. And this is what I drink coffee or tea out of every day. So
I love it. I love it. And I always love asking people about what kind of mug they're using, because they always come with a story. But that also is another way of us setting up our day or setting up our intentions. And I love that. That's great. I wanted to focus today. We're going to be talking about a special program coming up. We're going to be talking about your background. So I was trying to highlight what could I bring forward for people that is going to be in the self-care realm. And I focused on HoneyBEE, which people have heard me talk about before. And I'm going to just hold the package up so people can see. If you're on the podcast and you're listening, I'm holding up a package that has a circle kind of symbol in the front corner. And that tells people that this actually balances the 5 elements from Chinese medicine all at once, based on the ingredients. But today I'm going to just highlight 2 that I thought would come into our conversation, and with the herbs that you chose, this will be great. The affirmation that's on the front is: feel the boost of your spirit and the playfulness and joy that transpires. A zest to life is encouraged with each sip. So this is about finding that playfulness, finding that opportunity, which I love about your brand and your company name, going to the sandbox and going back to playing, especially as adults. And that's what I had hoped for when I put this tea together as well. And it comes with a book. So if people are looking for some simple tools to help with stress, then it's the BioEnergetic Essentials book, which they can get at canbewell.org. And you can just find it on the main page. But I want to talk about the tea. So HoneyBEE. So I'm going to hold this up. I've kind of moved to clear colored so people can see the color and engage with color. And if you'll notice, we have a storm going on outside today. I have a snowman inside my mug, which is very fun.
I couldn't tell if that was inside the cup or on the outside.
Yeah, no, it's inside. So as I sip, then the snowman starts to be revealed.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to highlight 2 ingredients from this blend. So we have vanilla. And the thing about vanilla is, and this is why I chose it, because very often when we go to baking, one of the first things we do too is smell. And I just wanted to highlight today, as we go into the conversation on movement, that one of the first things that happens is when the sense of smell is engaged. So you get that cup of tea and you smell, then it goes right back into the limbic system, which is with your emotions, but it links up to the motor system for you to get moving and to have that opportunity to be unfrozen. So vanilla is one of those ones that everybody relates to, especially if you have some cookies around, then you'll often have that. And if you think about eggnog has that, sometimes has vanilla with it as well. So I wanted to bring that little bit forward, but I also want to just share with you. Vanilla opens our ability to reach for our goals and provides an ascension to realizing new potential ways of reaching dreams. And awareness is going to provide us with insight, and that comes from vanilla. So it has a little bit more to it than we think. And then the second part is the honeybush. In honeybush, I've started adding in with teas where you want to get rid of the bitterness in them. And then honeybush just gives it a little bit of lightness without adding any sugar. And this helps for nurturing a sweet life, finding the pleasures of experience and the joy of playing. So it's a perfect ingredient to add to our conversation. So Sarah, thank you for sharing with me about the teas and bringing things forward. So cheers. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's the second part. We smell first, then we get to taste. We have our senses engaged, and now we can dive in. So Sarah, do you want to tell me a little bit first about what it means for you to invite people to play in the sandbox?
My company name, Amper Sandbox, was started, I don't know, sometime I created that sort of on a whim to get, I worked in an open work environment, not as many walls. And so we had many divisions. And so I tried to put a question up. I mean, it could be anything like, where's a good place to go for dinner? Or who has, a template for budget, something. It could be sort of business. And then people could, as they go by, could write an answer. So you get sort of the collective wisdom. And so I called that Amper Sandbox originally, and really liked that sort of play on words. And I think because my work touches, from my view, we have one life. We sometimes say I have a work life and a personal life. We really just have one life, and it has components to it. So it's really one sandbox, and it has many aspects to it. So having that, as you said, the playfulness and the creativity that children have in sandboxes about creating and making and then messing it up and starting over, and the feel of the sandbox just sort of really resonated with me. So I think I work with people, and it impacts their personal and work life and whatever else kind of life they sort of divide their life into. So it's a holistic approach, which I think you and I both share.
Mm-hmm. Just as you were saying, because in my mind, when I was typing sandbox in, I was thinking of the sandbox that I had as a kid, and the wooden box that Dad made us, and trying to dig ourselves down to China,
right?
Taking all the sand out of the box. But as you were saying that, as touching the sand and manipulating the sand and changing, I hadn't thought about that. But as you were saying that, there's another sense that we brought in. So we're now talking about more than just that smell piece. But you actually brought that to me in that, yeah, we can manipulate and change that. And then that led to, I could hear the ocean. So as soon as I started thinking about playing in the sand, then it was like, oh yeah, and there's the water. So beautiful. So I had to bring that in because that brings more senses to us. And it allows us with that opportunity to remind ourselves where we may have forgotten, just as I had, how much fun that is.
And now have you played with the kinetic sand?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great stuff. If people don't like sand in their house or the messy, like I'm a no glitter in my household. So some people might have that about sand, and that kinetic sand really that lovely being able to just, mush it and mold it, and it doesn't make a mess. So
yeah,
it's also great.
Yeah. I'm laughing about the glitter because one, there's always been, as a dancer, right? There's always sequins somewhere. There's always glitter happening. And, but what I'm thinking about is I have a sign here that if there's sand on the floor at my house in the summertime, then it means my priorities are right, because I have more time at the beach than I am worrying about cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay. When you are working, because you're working with adults in leadership and you're supporting teams and bringing people together, what do you find they really struggle with having forgotten how to play or how to bring in that joyfulness of living?
Well, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the US, we have a strong culture of, get her done first, play after all the chores are done, play later. I was just at a retreat where we were talking about wonder and play just yesterday, and we talked a little bit about that. The culture is, production and check off the list and those kind of things. So it's okay to play as a child, and then you're supposed to grow up. And so so much research is now coming out about play is important to work. That's where innovation and creativity and new markets come, and new products and new services come from play. And so how important it is. And it brings us joy, which is where we also learn when we're in a place of joy versus grit and gotta get it done. I don't want to finish this, but I gotta. That's not our best mental space for doing the work.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about, go ahead.
Well, I just think people feel like as a grown up, it's just they don't have the permission to play.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about how roles have changed in jobs because it used to be more assembly line like and your hierarchy in the office. And so some people got to be creative, some people were the to do people. And it's really changed because we have a lot more who are being creative and creative, even if it has to be in a to do kind of list, but there's a little bit more of that happening just because of the computer and graphics and all the social media stuff that happens. And it means when we're looking at work, trying to find the fun in that, because bringing the stress into the fact that we actually do have a creative component that we might not have had before adds a different level of stress.
And I think it's important when you're working that you put your thumbprint, your personality, your style. Everybody's different and unique in that kind of way. And so I think having your nuance it's not just an assembly. It does matter that you're there. You matter, your work matters.
Your contribution, your insights. Yeah. So we have a project coming up that we want to share with all of you. And that is Sarah and I are working with Marathon Jam. And Sarah, maybe do you want to explain Marathon Jam?
Well, I don't know all the nuances, but it's a group of musicians that have been supporting the VA, the veterans themselves and their caregivers for a while. And they go in and play music for the veterans in the area. We have several veterans hospitals and nursing homes around. And so they go and play, they feel like music is healing and they want to share their gifts. So it's fun to watch.
And so Marathon Jam is operating out of North Carolina, but has influences of pockets of bands playing across the country, all in support of veterans. And we're working on a project where we're bringing in the music, but also we're bringing in movement and color and some tea. And so the aspect that Sarah is bringing to the table is this incredible opportunity of storytelling and using movement through that storytelling. And she'll be able to offer a special experiential part within this event that we're putting together. Do you want to talk about what that kind of storytelling is, physical storytelling?
So I have a clinical background as a psychotherapist and specifically a dance movement therapist. And so I worked with behavioral health patients for many decades, adult and adolescent and children, with movement as a form of psychotherapy. So when we have emotional challenges or diagnosis, it doesn't just happen from the brain up, it's in the whole body. So helping people express themselves, stay connected to their body, be in communication and relationships with other people, not shutting down. So I worked in that kind of inpatient, outpatient for decades. At the same time I started doing that, I also became introduced to storytelling. So I consider myself a story listener, professional story listener. So we have this great network of storytellers in the U.S. And around the world, but we have the National Storytelling Festival, which is a place where you just go listen to stories, the best storytellers around the world. So there 10,000 people used to come to it prior to COVID, but it's been going on for 40, 50 years. I can't remember. I've gone 32 years in a row until last year when Helene came through and we needed to focus on people's more basic needs right then. So, so anyway, I sort of fell in love with storytelling. Again, feel like I'm more of a story listener, but one of my colleagues in the dance therapy world, she and her husband, so Connor Kelly and Steve Harvey, created this modality called physical storytelling. And I've been following them, studying with them, exploring how to use it in my work. And I'm no longer a psychotherapist. And I find that this physical storytelling is still helpful and helps people, instead of playing it through their head. So physical storytelling is helpful when somebody has a challenge, a memory, a struggle, a replayed story in your head that you just play over and over and over again. Nick Petrie's research on that type of thing where you just play it over and over, you get the same results. Some people said do the same thing, trying for different results is called insanity. But this is when you just literally, your brain just replays. And he calls that rumination. And it's an amazing, scary statistic about how much of the time we can get caught in rumination and just sort of put ourselves to sleep by just replay. And it didn't get us anywhere new. So the physical storytelling helps people verbally tell a story in a group setting. And then the audience or the group members become movers and retell their story in movement. And the original storyteller gets to watch it instead of relive it in their head. Because, if it stays in your head, it just gets warped and gets bigger usually. So having it some distance to it and you watching somebody else moving out your story, and several things happen. It is a great way that the group members literally step into somebody else's world. That's the true definition of empathy, is I am now being you, or I'm being selected to play a part of the role. And because I'm me and I have a unique perspective, the way I'm going to do that is, has my thumbprint on it. And so it might be slightly different than the storyteller. And so they have an option to have some variation on endings or how you move through it or what you can respond to. And just having that distance, it's been amazing that people have seen new insights from that distance and having somebody else be a part of their story and retelling it in different ways. So wow. It's can be powerful, it can be funny, it can be delightful, and it can be hard.
And it can be hard. Yeah. For those people that don't like to look in the mirror, it can be very difficult. Yeah. But the other side of that, I'm thinking how interesting to be able to observe, especially if you have people playing other people in your life, to be able to observe even one of those people and realize the impact of the situation on that one person. So we're talking about empathy, and that's kind of that global empathy of the group. But then there's that piece of, if you might have missed how much impact that situation had for that one person. Much better understanding. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you say that, one particular physical storytelling that we did was a woman that said that she got, it was college, high school, I can't remember, I guess younger maybe, in high school. And it was report card time, and she brought her report card to her dad, and he said, you didn't get I see you got an A, you didn't get an A plus. And she said, they don't give A pluses, they just give A's. And he said, then you didn't work hard enough. And everybody in the audience just went, oh. You could just like, oh, so, this driven, like she just never could measure up for her dad. So she picked somebody to be her and somebody to be her dad. And what was interesting, it was done at, on a stage where there happened to be a piano. It just, something else had been there. So we had to work around the piano. And so because of that, the two dancers couldn't see each other. One could see one, but they were sort of spread out, and they weren't looking at each other. And at one point they were reenacting sort of the process, and they did the same movement at the same time. There's this beautiful synchrony. And again, everybody saw it, and everybody just went, oh, it was just so beautiful that this random movement came at the same time. And what was an important part of that is that the storyteller, the original storyteller, this woman said that moment for her, so something happens and then we try to make sense of it. And for her, she realized at that moment, she saw both she and her, quote, dad doing the same thing. And she said, I realized at that moment that criticism was not about me, that was about him. And so she was able to release the power of that critical nature of her dad on her and let that story go and say, that's more about him and not me. So it's just this beautiful piece about the listening, the moving, and then the sense making, all coming together. It's just pretty terrific.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I was thinking also about then that reflective piece of also what she's taken forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that opportunity then to realize, where in my life have I continued to hold that in that forward position?
Mm-hmm.
How to bring that back. Yeah. Yeah. Is it hard for people to step into those kinds of roles? Do they find reflection of themselves within that acting that they're doing?
Well, and we actually ask them not to act, but to respond to the story, not to just play it out like a play, but to respond to it, having heard the story, then just, keep moving. So you and I both know that, yes, people don't always like to move, right? So sometimes people freeze, like, can you just move a little bit? It's like, and again, I was in this retreat yesterday and we were singing and we were doing artwork and we were doing movement, and people had various comfort zones with, each of those arts. And so I take for granted that people, just move around, and people are petrified about that. So I often, and April at this piece that we'll be doing, I often do a warm up because people don't understand the language of movement. They don't know how to move, or they don't feel like they. And of course, I usually say if people are walking, they know movement and they know rhythm because you walk with a rhythm and those kind of things. So I took an art class one time with drawing on the right side of your brain. I don't know if you know that book. So they said, draw your hand, and it looked like Peanut's hand, it just looked like a child's drawing. And then we went through this book about the different chapters and how to draw and what to think about. And then I drew my hand, and it's sitting right across the way. I'm looking at it right now, and it keeps inspired because it's like, I drew that, like that actually looks like my hand, I was just dumbfounded by how well I could draw given some instruction. And it was just a couple, within a couple hour frame. Mm-hmm. So I translated that book into how do you move? Do you start with points and lines and edges and perspective and empty space? And so how do you start moving in it? So I have people start doing that. And by the end of that, they are moving, and they're comfortable with each other. So, mm-hmm. Giving people language so that they can play with a modality called movement, even though most people are moving all the time. Mm-hmm. But the free movement, because it's vulnerable and you're showing yourself, you will bring yourself to any movement. And mm-hmm. if you don't move, then you're bringing yourself to that non-movement. So, mm-hmm. the body, as we say, the body never lies, and it's revealing. So I think that's why, people are scared and sometimes to move. And then some mm-hmm. people are very, very comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's why when I was younger, it was the ballet, Highland, jazz, which is all very much full body, also down to the floor, up off the floor. And then as an adult, I moved into the percussive footwork and using that through tap dancing and then eventually into step dancing. And I love that because it keeps me moving all the time, because you can toe tap to anything. And that can break that mold of I'm frozen in time, but you start tapping your foot to the music and pretty soon the whole body's responded and off you go. And it's been one of those pieces where as a kid, I never thought I would ever enjoy something like that. That was, why would you put a piece of tin on the bottom of your shoe? That's a dumb thing. And now it's just like, how much rhythm can you make with it? How much, and it's all coming out of just your feet, which is really interesting. Yeah. So much fun. Okay, so we've got this opportunity at the Marathon Jam event to be able to share with people. So we'll have caregivers, we'll have the opportunity for those people who work with people who've had different traumas or events in their lives that they're trying to work through. But then we'll also have people who just want to come and have the experience. Can you kind of walk through what that hour will look like?
Well, as I said before, I will probably, warm people up to movement. I think mine's in the afternoon, so I think we'll have moved a little bit, but to get some vocabulary about movement, and so that people are familiar with whatever group is. So I love group dynamics, and I've always done group therapy and teamwork now with organizational development. I love the connection between people in a group setting. And I'm always fascinated by those dynamics. So I have learned to, ways to create a safe space so that people can be themselves, and there's no mistakes, and they're all correct answers, and that we're here to play. I mean, part of that is that freedom. You don't have to teach that to a kid, and we have to remember that as an adult. So there'll be a warm up and a safety and some ground rules and some structure. I usually talk about, because the physical storytelling has many layers of dance therapy, contact improv, playback theater has some of those aspects. And then you have the whole concept of storytelling. And so again, storytelling, that's for kids. And now there's so much literature around the storytelling in business settings and the power of the narrative, the power of telling a story to connect with people, to connect with their mission statement, to keep people aligned. So lots of great research on that. And so I'm bringing these two worlds together. So I have to teach storytelling a little bit. And one of my favorite storytellers, Don Davis, has been to many of his workshops, but he talks about sort of the basic structure of storytelling is once upon a time, and then one day, and so you tell about the way it was, and then one day is when the hero or heroine faces a challenge, and the and so part is the resolution. So it's always here was life before the whatever happened, and then the challenge, and then the resolution, whether there's a resolution or not. So then I have people move and connect, start creating stories, that when they see people move, a story starts creating in their head, so that there's a relationship between imagination, words, and movement. And then we have somebody usually share a story or share I think we'll have to really condense it because of the time of the workshop. But probably a situation where they can really create a metaphor. It's like a twisted rope. And then for people to show what a twisted rope feels like for them, and what do you want it to be, and how would one solve that twisted rope kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. So I'm not there as a therapist. I'm there to sort of give tools about how to rethink ways, and to remember that your body is that your mind is part of your body. And so it's a whole picture here that we need to stay connected and related to ourselves, and that we feel feelings and we think thoughts for a reason, and they're telling us something about ourselves and where we are. And so it's just sort of being in wonder about what's happening and how to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's beautiful. I like the way that you've explained getting people to move who maybe don't feel comfortable moving, or who've been frozen in front of their computer or driving in a car for many hours a day, because sometimes that's enough to stop the movement from happening. But it's also a great time then for the looping to happen in the brain, because we get stuck because of being in that position. So if this sounds like something that's of interest to you as you're listening, then we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to bring this forward, and you'll be able to explore more of what Sarah has to offer in some of her other programs as well. And if the Marathon Jam sounds like something you want to do, then you'll be able to check out the links that we'll have in the notes, so that you can check out if it's a possibility for you to be there with us. Will you share a little bit about some of the work that you do for teams? I'm so interested in how you bring all of this together in the working world, the leadership capacity.
Right. So I felt like my roots in dance therapy have been a part of my organizational. To me, it's the same thing: dance therapy, organizational development. You're working with people that are trying to move through this world, and create a life that is the best that they can, and they face challenges and all those kind of things. So dance therapy continues to be there, although I don't talk about it all the time. Again, the group dynamics is important. As we talk about leadership, particularly if people are new to leadership, they go from being sort of rewarded for doing a job, and then they get promoted because they're so good at it. And sometimes they get promoted into leadership with no skills about how to be a leader, and it's a whole different job. And so you have to actually get the job done, not by what you do, but by getting other people to do it. And so it's really about, understanding people more, understanding your impact on other people, and vice versa. It's always a reminder that we're all different, thank goodness. And so we don't want the same things. We're not motivated by the same things. We're not rewarded the same way. So we have to figure out how I'm going to get along with you and vice versa. And we got this job to do. We are getting paid by the company. How are we going to put all these pieces together? And so the leader has important parts of creating a vision about where are we going. I think, I'll often say if you had small kids in the back seat of a long distance driving, they want to know, where are we and are we there yet? And we never get out of the back seat, a little car seat. So we want to sort of know where we are and where we're going. And so the leader does need to connect that and make sure all the pieces are aligned, and then to get things done. So that's work, whether it's creative or assembly line or whatever. I've worked with all kinds of industries. So the leader has a very important perspective, and sometimes they don't even see that themselves. So they have to see how they respond in leadership roles, and they're always under a microscope, and there's never enough time to get it all done. So how are you going to be successful anyway? And so that's the challenge that's often facing leaders. And it's gotten pretty tough. It's always been tough. Working with matrix teams where you don't directly have power over somebody. You can't hire and fire them. You have to work with them through influence. And with the hybrid world, you don't even see them, or you never met them, or you're in a different country and they have a different culture and all those kind of things. So the work world has gotten to be pretty interesting with hybrid and matrix complexity. And because we have information at our fingertips so quickly, the world changes so quickly. So many times it comes down to not what you do, but how you say it, not what you say, but how you say it. It's about communication, verbal and nonverbal. So again, the movement comes in. If I say, Michelle, I'll be glad to help you. Just let me know when I can help you, I'm not very convincing, and you're not going to believe me, and you're not going to ask me to help because my body's screaming, don't even think about asking me that. So helping people really be effective in communication, and that means speaking, and that means listening. We do a poor job of listening. We often want to listen to fix, to solve problems, not just listen to understand somebody else. So many skills are basic and not simple, what I call them some easy models around communication, sharing your intention, asking good questions, and sharing what you're up to, what your intention is, where you're going, what's your vision, and then connecting with other people that they have to get there too. You can't just say, we're going forward and I don't care who follows me, because you have to get everybody to follow you. So I'm fascinated by the many, many ways that people do that very successfully. And sometimes they get stuck in ways they can't see dynamics, or they've never had a person like Jose that does this, or Mary who does this. And so that's also their growth edge, the leadership, learning how to navigate all that. So it's a blend. It's not psychotherapy, but I sure am glad that I studied psychotherapy and people and personalities and movement, nonverbal. It can totally change how they speak and those kind of things. So my probably more recent work around change management is that many times organizations, whether they're like implementing a new IT software or building a new building or merging with another company, that dramatically impacts people's day-to-day worlds. And many leaders just say, well, on Tuesday we're doing it, so go do it, and they think that's the plan. And that may be the project plan. Change management really addresses the people part. How are people going to respond to that change? Did I know about it? Do I like it? Whether you like it or not, you still may have to do it. And how are you going to get there? How are you going to change your life? Sometimes it means you have to really rearrange your whole life. And we don't like that, being told to do that. Some people say, people don't like change. And I don't always agree with that. People don't like change that they didn't come up with. Because, if you want to try a new restaurant or get a new hairdo or buy a new outfit, and you want to do it, you don't have any problem changing all that. Being told to do is where we get, I think.
And being put into chaos.
Right.
Because the systems aren't there anymore. And,
right.
Who do I turn to get that question? They're not there anymore, or their role changed. Yeah.
Right. And people want to feel confident and competent in their jobs. And so if you change what I do, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, I've had it many times, like something's changed at my house. And so the coffee maker is broken. So I can't have coffee in the morning. Well, then I get all screwed up in my whole day because that's a part of my routine. I don't even think about these routines. And if you change one thing in my routine, it sort of throws me off. And the brain really likes to figure out a pattern and then stick with it. So this changes the pattern. And so if you can make that more visible, more involved, more engaged, so I help leaders involved. We built a huge hospital, 200,000 square foot hospital extension, and people were involved. We had 1,000 people involved in the design of that building and what was going to be in there for the future of our patients. And when we walked in for the tour, one of the nurses just said, "You built our building," because they've been a part of the design instead of an architect and a senior leader designing something and then say, go figure out. The people that actually did the work got to be a part of the design. And so they owned it, and so then, of course, then they take care of it and they know where things are and they feel comfortable and they can make less mistakes because they understand where they are, that kind of thing. So those are all, and what has changed? I mean, as people come to therapy for change, people move and change, people go through life and change. So it seems like it's sort of all around us.
And like you said, too, it's just been speeding up and people are noticing that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just one change. It's probably you have something at work going on and at your work and maybe at your faith community and, your neighborhood's doing something and it just feels like it's like, stop, I can't do it. Yeah.
Let me just work on tying my shoe right now.
Let me just say, I'm going to have my tea. That's going to be my constant. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's what I do. And I had tea in my life before the tea company, but since then I'm really deliberate about what tea I choose, where I take the tea and when I offer it. And around here, I live in Cape Breton, and the first thing you get asked when you come in the door is, do you want a cup of tea? And if you say no, that's an insult. It's like, yes, you'll want a cup of tea. And that opportunity to just set up the relaxation right at the beginning, because that's what the cup of tea brings. And it's like, you say, would you like a cup of coffee? It has a similar connotation, but then you also have that kind of buzz thought in your mind, like I'll be revved up afterwards. Tea is kind of like you soften into it and let's sit down and have that conversation. And around here, that openness, please come to my door and have a visit.
Hospitality and it's really a dance about the relationship, about, I'm inviting you in, you're coming in, let's sit together, let's sit across from each other, builds the relationship right away.
Yeah. So I really try to do more of that and be really present with it and take time, which is also nice. Because sometimes even here, the people would love to be dropping in and out and everything. It's still, we have a little bit of the pace of the city. So we still have those deadlines and pieces too that being online presents. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you do with one-on-one, because you've talked about that whole group dynamics, which is incredible. What happens to the one-on-ones?
Well, it's a different kind of relationship, as you know. It's the cup of tea with somebody. And so the one-to-ones are mostly if I'm consulting with a leader or designing something that they want to, work on with their group. Or if I do individual coaching, and it's about their development, then it's different. Coaching is gotten to be a buzzword. I got certified as a coach in 2001, but when it was sort of still sports coaching, and it wasn't all this other kind of coaching that's been around. So it's gotten a lot more popular, and it's not a bad thing to go to a coach. I mean, hopefully not. So coaches use the art of inquiry, asking questions to help people come up with their own answers versus telling people what to do. That's a consultant or a manager. Or here's how I did it. That's a mentor. Coaching is really, well, have you ever faced this before? What do you hope to get out of it? What's your intention? What have you thought about? What's happened in the past? What do you recognize a pattern? So you're asking questions to help them discover their own answers, because when people come up with their own answers, they're more likely to do them, and they don't resist your answers. So it's a really a wonderful place of not knowing. Like, I have no idea when I sit down with a coachee where it's really going to go, because it's theirs. And so in some ways, it's sort of that fascination of like story listening is just like, where's this going, and what questions can I offer that might help them look at their own story sort of from a new perspective or whatever. And maybe I hear a pattern about, I'm hearing a lot of words about, something in a pattern. And so I might point something out and say, does that resonate, or is that what you intended? And tell me more about that. So a lot of questions. And I often discover that I just sort of, fall in love with my coachees. I just like it. I'd be on Team Michelle if you were my coachee. And so I'm all about whatever you want to be about. And so there's this delightful world of not having to know anything specifically. I'm just interested in how you're going to get to your own answers. And so I work with people that I don't know anything about their industry at all. And it's about people, I'm in the people business. So I find myself saying I do a lot of peopling lately. It's all about peopling.
I like that. And if we come full circle from that, and you think about that dance world that you started in, how are the lessons that you got in dance reflective now as you look back in the ways that you do things and the impact?
Well, interestingly, you'd say that, and this was not scripted, so you didn't know this, but I wrote a little article called the 5 Leadership Lessons from the Bar, meaning BARRE, because I started as a ballet bar. I started when I was much older. I was too scared to do recitals, so I didn't dance as a child. I was mortified, very shy. And then about 16, I went for the exercise and fell in love with dance. It took over my life. So I wrote about it because the more I talked about leadership, I was like, that's related to dance. I learned a lot of that in the dance world. One of which is that I often say I just feel very fortunate having classical ballet training where the ballet master, who usually scared me to death, had a stick and going through like, lift it higher, and then the culture there was, if they corrected you, it meant you had potential. And you actually wanted them to like put their hands on you and like put your leg up like that. They help shape, that kind of thing. But having that attention on you and focusing on it meant you were sort of the star of the show, or you had potential. And I think most people don't get that in the world, that lesson of, if I'm correcting you, it means you have potential. I value you enough to spend time on getting you better because I think you're worth it. If I don't care what you do, I'm just going to walk by, like, screw up, mess up, do it wrong. I don't care. It's a really passing you by. So that was one huge piece about sharing that I grew up in a world where correction meant you've got potential. And so I wish that for everybody, and not everybody got that from the ballet. Also think that, if you're dancing in a group of people, whoever's up front is correct. And you learn, if they mess up, you better mess up the same way, because if you just say, well, that's not the right way, then you look wrong. Everybody in the audience will say, that one in the back is wrong, even if I did the right step. So learning to work with others and respond and improvise and be aware. There were so many lessons that I learned from ballet. And the other thing that was, I'd go to rehearsal, and there was only one or two performances, or, I didn't do any long, Broadway shows or anything like that where it went on forever. So I did short period, and I'd often at the end of a performance, early on, I was like, it's over already, because I for a while I would just go, well, I'm just going to mark it and sort of half dance it, because I'll just really do it full out in the performance. And so I really began to see that rehearsal is the dance. Practicing every day, being present in your life and being full out as if it's the performance every day is the only chance, because the performance is very brief and then it's over. And you waste a lot of your life that way. So that was really important, is really to try to be present through the rehearsals and the performances in life. So.
That's such a valuable piece, working with people to try to build wellness plans for them and support them with, this is something you need to be doing every day. They'd like you to just be able to fix them, and they'll be able to carry on, but they can carry on with those patterns that got them to the problem in the first place.
Right.
Which is, as you were talking about, if you don't approach those changes, you end up doing the same thing over and over, and then you get the same result. But that piece about, it's something you do every day. If you have a wellness plan, that plan is what you practice. And it may be that you don't do all the things correctly through the day, that, there's different things that come up and choices that you make, and that's okay, because you still have choice for moving forward what you want to do. But that practice piece from dance of, if you practice that every day, then that wellness plan is just what you do. And the dance is just what you do. And how you can move those legs and arms and feel confident. It's just what you do. Yeah.
The scariest moment of performance was when that curtain was coming up, and I was like, oh, I forgot the whole dance. It's like, it just went out of my brain. And if you have that muscle memory about, I've done it, if I can just do the first step, then the rest of it just, starts coming through. So, we're not usually perfect the first time we do stuff. And there's a huge push to be perfect, to be better, to get it right the first time. And and that's the play of getting better at something. There's, we've all been beginners at something. We were talking about this yesterday. Again, beginner's mind is a very rich place. You get to ask questions. I've never done this before, so what about this? What about this? And then we quickly move to, like, well, you've been here a week, you should be perfect at it. It's like, it's more of a craft, and it's a practice. So just, getting through those daily practices that enrich your life, that you don't go to sleep with them, though, either. I mean, we can get into a routine where we stop paying attention to what we're doing. And so part of that is be in the rehearsal, be there, be in the practice, be in the wellness plan. Don't just check it off your list, but this is about you and not getting done.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, the story, this goes back to the storytelling, in that you don't remember the perfect performance. You remember when the costume piece fell off. I fell off the stage once, like, those are the stories that you tell. And how did you solve the problem? That's the interesting piece, which brings us full circle with our conversation today, is that's what leads to our stories. And where sometimes we feel like those stories are devastating stories, they can have very hard pieces in them. But really the richness is, what did you do about it?
Yeah.
What
And
did you
so,
do?
yeah, what was the resolution? So one of my, again, my favorite storyteller says, he'd tell at Christmas time and he goes, and I hope something goes wrong at the holidays so you'll have a story to tell. You don't remember the perfect holiday. So, but remember when the stove broke, or remember when the turkey was raw or something.
Yeah.
Have a story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, all right. Well, I hope that for the listeners, you've got a new way of thinking about movement and storytelling, but also that Sarah has incredible opportunities available. And what we're bringing to the Marathon Jam is just going to be so rich. And we hope that people will be able to come and enjoy or follow us and learn about some of the pieces that we're doing along the way as we continue to share, either through the podcast or through some of the publications we'll have after the fact. Sarah, how can they find you if they're looking for more?
Well, I have a website, www.ampersandbox.net, and email, and I'm on LinkedIn. So I think, will you be able to share those in like show notes or something?
Yeah.
So so reach out if you have questions or want to know more about something.
Beautiful. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for the conversation today. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
I know. I can't wait to. Yeah, that's going to be great. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be well. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website, greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.